How long is this going to be?
20 minutes?
It is.
Yeah, is that okay?
We're rolling.
No, well, here we are.
Okay, here we go. Why do you think Sibel Edmonds deserves the Penn Award?
Because she performed a heroic act by making certain that the text that she was given was correct in its translation. This affected security in a very significant way, and had the FBI listened to her at that time, who knows what might have been the outcome if the full forces of our government were employed. Instead, they were not. And she deserves this award. She deserves the respect and admiration of people across this country, and I hope she's going to get it.
Senator, if you don't mind, my questions are not going to be included in this, so if you could say Sibel Edmonds or as much as possible so that it stands on its own.
Tell me in advance, and then I know.
You got it, I'm sorry.
All right.
You've been active in defending Sibel Edmonds. Why?
Sibel Edmonds established a principle for us in our country. She said that if you see something wrong, you have an obligation to speak out against it. As a matter of fact, in many states, in many places, there are laws on the books that say if you witness a crime, then you too are guilty of an illegal act, and you pay a price for it. You get punished for it. And Sibel Edmonds did, again, heroic duty by coming forward as she did. It took a lot of courage for her to do that.
Did you ever think to yourself, how could
Hold on a second. Now, if you're not being questioned, who am I talking to with this angle of my face?
Oh, you're talking to the
Well, then why shouldn't I be looking at the camera?
because it's better, this is,
But you're not included.
Yeah.
no. Well, you wouldn't look straight into the camera.
It's up to you.
We're doing all the interviews.
Yeah? Okay.
Okay.
All right, I don't want to look shifty-eyed.
No, it's a format of what we
Nori,
do.
Yeah.
why don't you come back here and
Okay.
make sure?
Directly.
I mean, he doesn't.
I mean, you don't call it shifty-eyed
is
productions, do you?
standard.
Okay, Senator, the visual is beautiful. I mean, it's perfect.
It's very
Uh,
The
standard.
Senate seal and the flag. I think the format is
All right,
probably perfect.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
Now, respectfully noted, I just wanted to be sure because once you said that you weren't included. All right, let's
Okay.
go.
Were you impressed by her persistence, the fact that she didn't give up and she didn't look the other way?
I was impressed by her courage. Sibel Edmonds did something very unusual. She defied what could be recriminations, retribution, by sticking up for what was a principle. It wasn't a popular thing to do, I can assure you. So she showed her courage. She showed her loyalty to her country by doing this. And we owe her a debt of gratitude. And I'm pleased that Penn is giving her this award and giving her the recognition that's so important for the deed that she performed. Did my voice rattle in there at all?
It sounded good, and it was a very good soundbite.
Yeah.
Senator. What went through your mind when you heard of Sibel Edmonds' difficult battle? Did you read her 9/11 Commission testimony? I mean, was there?
Her deed, the blowing the whistle in this case, came to my attention. But it wasn't the first time that we had heard in government that there are people who had serious complaints about the way government was being operated in their departments, and they felt obligated by loyalty to country, by loyalty to honesty, which makes for better government and better understanding, who come forward like that. And when I finally heard about her willingness to tell the truth, I immediately wanted to have her appear with us, and she did. and she made a very good impression at the hearing that we held, and she's persistent, I'll tell you that. And I see it in her kind of reminding us about the fact that we have a duty to do in this case, and I've written an act to protect whistleblowers as a result, and hopefully we'll get it into law. But I'm pleased that to help us along, she's going to be acknowledged publicly for the work that she did.
I mean, and you touched upon this in your last answer, but last year you invited Sibel Edmonds to testify before the House Government Reform Subcommittee. What did you learn during her
Well, when she appeared with the Senate subcommittee, she made it clear that there was evidence that was misused, unused really, regarding 9/11 and the intelligence that we were gathering, translated from other languages, and she's an expert in at least 3 languages. The fact that she came along as she did and was able to convince people that something was wrong. She persisted. The FBI at first wasn't willing to accept the fact that their transcript was incorrect, that her review showed that they were inept in the way they did this. And she brought out the truth about how poorly handled this very important information was. And as a consequence, she earned my respect and that of so many others, and invited some problems from within her organization. She was terminated for doing a good deed. That's outrageous. It should never be permitted to happen. And because of her work, we're going to write legislation that says nobody can take it out on an employee who does the right thing. We want them protected. We encourage that kind of forthcoming view, and we want it to continue.
And while we're on, I was going to ask you about that later. The name of the bill, you didn't name it after her, but tell me about the legislation.
The name is more complicated. It's the now I've got to take. No, I've got, well. Oh yeah. Okay. Here we go. It's Westpac. We'll get right back to it, and we use these complicated names to try and get everything into an acronym. And let me just see. Here we go. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Pose the question again.
Okay, sure. You were talking about the legislation, and maybe in your answer you can incorporate that Sibel Edmonds sort of was the catalyst for this bill.
Well,
and is it the Paul? Yeah. So tell me.
She'll certainly be named as an important informant. This is the bill is called the Whistleblowers Empowerment Security Act, and that's what we want to accomplish. We want people to know that if they come up and tell the truth and lead us to a situation where we can fix a problem, she will have done far more than she even did in this single incident. It will set a different tone for government's operations, and that's the thing that we want to do, and she deserves all the credit for it.
Did you ever, I mean, when you heard of Sibel Edmonds' battle and her termination, did you think, how could this happen in America? I mean, was that?
It was no surprise because we'd seen it before. We saw it in Medicare. We saw it in other places as well, where people were forced to say things that weren't true, that weren't honest, to look aside. No, that's not an acceptable way for a government of this country of ours to operate, not at all. So we're going to do whatever we can to force people to come, not to accept any reductions in salary, reductions in standing, no punishment for a good deed.
What is your response, Senator, to those who think think that whistleblowers are troublemakers and enemies of the state. Is it important to protect whistleblowers? Are they important to our democracy?
Look, what we'd like to do is reduce the possibility that supervisors, managers, the executives in government will try to subdue people who want to tell the truth. And I don't even like the name whistleblowers because it conjures up a pejorative. It shouldn't be. It should be the Paul Revere this time, the courageous one, something like that. But the common term is whistleblowers. And I don't care what people say. When someone speaks up, invariably they have evidence to substantiate their claim. And they shouldn't have to worry about telling the truth. And if they're wrong, there are people who will hear it, inspectors general, etc. But we want to make sure that people understand that this is an honorable thing to do.
Getting back, is everything okay with the audio? Okay.
Yeah, you're hearing it goes in out in the hallway a little bit, but it's not.
You, when you introduced your Whistleblowers Act, you invited Sibel Edmonds to speak at the press conference, correct?
Right.
Why, and has she become the poster girl for this important issue?
Sibel Edmonds' deed was indeed a very good thing for people to understand that's what she had done. And I invited her to stand with me publicly, and this service that Penn is doing by giving her this award is all part of a campaign to say, listen, you've got to straighten up within government. You can't take out your anger or your trust in people and punish them for telling the truth about something that's wrong. And so as a consequence, we like the public exposure. We need it to get it through the legislature, the Congress.
I think I'll one more question.
All right.
Is Sibel Edmonds bigger and broader than the translation department of the FBI? Are there more important issues at hand?
I think if we look back at the intelligence mishaps that took place preceding and including 9/11, one of the darkest days in American history, and just perhaps, if the translation had been accurate, that maybe some action would have been induced that could have saved some lives. And that's what we want to do whenever, wherever we can do it. And once again, I commend her, Sibel Edmonds, I commend Penn, and any of those who want to speak out in government have to feel free. And we'd like to hear them. I don't want to stir up trouble. My mission is to make government absolutely honest with the people. Tell the truth to those who elected you, to put you in place. And you'll be rewarded for that, for telling that truth, not punished. That's my mission.
Thank you, Senator. If you don't mind, because this is my mistake, I'm looking for a clean, you did brilliantly. The first question I just would like to redo using Sibel Edmonds' name. Why do you think Sibel Edmonds deserves the Penn Award?
Sibel Edmonds deserves an award, in this case the Penn Award, for having the courage to stand up, tell the truth about what she saw, the mishandling of translation that could have changed the action that our country took in order to protect people, particularly in 9/11 at that point in time, and to make sure that we know where there is a fault in government. It should not be permitted no recriminations should be allowed, and we want people to be encouraged to come forward.
Thank you.
I just want to check a date.
Okay, good.
Was that pre-9/11?
Yeah, and I'll show you where it is. It all began because she was charged with, shortly after 9/11, they hired her to translate these documents, and she was told.
And I appreciate your time. Why do you think Sibel Edmonds deserves the Pen Award?
Because she had courage, and she showed that courage by challenging the FBI as to the truth in their translation of information that they picked up. She understood the language. She made sure that she was accurate in her analysis. And she came forward to talk about it, despite the fact that she knew there might be recriminations. She knew that she might be punished by someone higher up who could affect her career. And they did, ultimately. They terminated her. But she had the intuition, the courage, the backbone to stand up and do it. And we are very grateful to her. And the Pen Award is significant in that regard. Tell the public what happened and that Sibel Edmonds was a heroine in this.